welcome into the CHGO White Sox post-game show, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Ectorwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. We'll be joined later in the show from Guaranteed Rate Field live by Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. He has 2 articles that have been posted in the last 2 days, one more on the trade side, and then earlier today we got more insight into what the White Sox plan will be for Garrett Crochet. We'll talk about that off the top. We'll talk a little bit about the result of today and yesterday's game. We'll talk about Andrew Benintendi, the power surge. We'll talk a little bit about Eloy Jimenez. Everyone was ready to write him off after the hitch in his giddy-up on Sunday, but he's been playing in both the past 2 games, so we'll talk about that angle. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Vinny will be joining us. Last night, we were at Guaranteed Rate Field. We experienced a 2-0 loss as the Shohei Ohtani Dodgers kind of rolled over the Chicago White Sox. And Herb, what did they do tonight?
They rolled over the White Sox again, but the White Sox scored runs today.
That's true. Hey, it wasn't the
early.
It wasn't the 12th shutout of 2024.
And they're like, all right, that's enough. We're done.
Andrew Benintendi had a really nice at bat, and then he said, "All right, you guys take it from here."
Yeah, we were in the lead.
What?
We were in the lead by the first inning.
Well, Sarah, I mean, maybe we could chat about this. You told me before today's game that you thought and we're being produced today by Sarah.
Hi.
You told me before today's game that you thought the White Sox would win.
My thing, though, is we only lost 2-0 yesterday. So, and if we can't beat any other team, then the best story is to have the Sox beat the Dodgers. And for a moment, I really did think it was going to happen because it was, 3-1 then at one point? We had 2 runs ahead of the Dodgers.
It's early.
And I was like, okay, they came to play.
Technically, they lost 3-0 yesterday. They got a run in the ninth.
Or 3-0, yeah.
I thought it was 2-0.
Yeah,
so I wrote down 2-0.
I mean, yeah, we might have forgot about it because we were there and rainy and wet, and then the ninth inning run really didn't matter because we knew the White Sox weren't scoring any runs, so it was academic. But yes,
I mean, after the bottom of the second, Sarah is right. They were technically leading this game 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, I literally tweeted out like, "Hey, right now it's 3-1. Moneyline might get a little bit more delicious later in the game, so you get the plus 400, which it didn't get there, I don't think, because the Dodgers scored in the 3rd and the 4th, and then once they scored in the 4th, no one else scored after that. They took the lead there, and then the White Sox like, yeah, we scored our 3, and we usually do this. We usually do the early scoring and then not score again type of thing. So thanks, Dodgers. Even though the White Sox attacked Bobby Miller, absolutely crushed Bobby Miller for his 2nd time coming back home and having shit the bed. I feel bad for Bobby Miller, the pride of McHenry High School, just coming back and sucking versus the Cubs, getting crushed in that game in April, and then sucking versus the worst team in baseball, and still his team just finds a way to win.
I mean, is Elk Grove Village truly,
Yeah,
local kid?
yeah.
I mean, we made an exception.
Elk Grove Village is literally closer than Naperville.
Okay, all right. Hey, I mean, I don't really want to even make an exception for Nicky Lopez. And I think we barely even did that. So, I mean, and Bobby Miller isn't even a White Sox, so I don't even know if he gets the credit there. All right, so we'll talk about yesterday's game, 3-0 loss. We'll focus on Garrett Crochet's performance mainly. At least in today's game, was there anything else that stuck out to you? Chris Flexen went 5 2/3, 6 hits allowed, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 Ks. He really wasn't the problem today.
Nope.
Obviously, 4 earned runs and 5 2/3, not great, but he gave you 106 pitches. It's just you didn't score in the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, or the 8th. And I wonder too, or the 9th. I wonder too, do the White Sox have the best first time through the rotation numbers, compared to any other rotation numbers?
I would imagine.
Great the first time they see a guy, but then they let him settle in. The second time, smooth sailing. 3rd time, probably no hit. The starting pitcher. So yeah, I don't know. It's such a brutal team to watch. What's most important about these 2 losses is we are now at the halfway point of 2024. The White Sox stand at 21-60, and although dating back to 1901. They haven't played a full 162-game season. You can go back and look through the first 81 games of all of those seasons. Okay. So what is that, Herb? 122 seasons?
Yeah.
122 seasons of White Sox baseball. Actually, this is the 123rd season.
I mean, you cut out the garbage one, right? The 2021.
No, they didn't play 81 games.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah.
So
this is their 124th this year, right?
that one didn't count. Yeah. So they're 124th, not counting 2020.
Yeah.
This is the worst record through the first 81 games in White Sox history, and it's not even close.
And that's surprising.
They've
had a lot of crappy teams.
The 1934 team started 27 and 54.
Damn.
The 1948 team started 27 and 53. Also, how does that add up? 27 and 54 and then 27 and 53? Was there a tie?
I mean, there must have been. Yeah, back then they used to have ties all the time.
I don't know if that math adds up, guys. And then in 2018, maybe it's because the span ended for 1934. The span ended on a doubleheader. So they probably, since it's the same day, they counted the second game, which was also a loss. So they stuck to the status quo. And then the 2018 team, probably the most memorable, because I know Herb wasn't around for 1934 and not even 1948. So I don't think most of you were around for those teams. But 2018, 28 and 53. So this is by a landslide, by 6 whole effing games. This is the worst record after 81 games for the Chicago White Sox.
I mean, as I said the other day, we didn't expect the 21 and 60 team to show up. We expected a non-good game, a team, maybe a team that could compete, because we were all out here saying maybe they can win 80 games. They're not going to come close to 80 games. To win 80 games, they got to win all. They got to go 60, 59 technically, and 18, 19.
Oh, yeah. They could do that.
Like, they just got to get hotter than shit to go average. That's how bad this team is. It's just so bad, and nothing's changing. The thing is, though, before we keep on going about that, I'm going to mark down because I'll forget about it. Chris Flexen improved his trade stock because going against the Dodgers, only giving up what he did right now. Now, you're not going to get a great package for Chris Flexen, but you're going to get something that you didn't think you were going to get before. It's $1 million contract they gave him. I think the kid can pitch his way onto a team that's looking for a fifth, fourth starter, a guy that just can get innings and give you what he gave the White Sox today. Now, the White Sox as a whole will be worse now in the future, I believe, because you're giving up the innings of Chris Flexen, who is giving you major league starting innings right now. You're giving up, more than likely, Garrett Crochet either in a trade or, what we discuss later on, in the actual innings and pitches that he'll be throwing in the second half of this season. You're definitely going to be losing Eric Fetty, who is giving you close to all-star level performance. So how bad this is and how bad it started, it could get worse in this second half. And I know that we're in the midst and about to end on the Atlanta game, the 39-game gauntlet, which hasn't gone well. But it's not the teams necessarily that they're playing. It's the White Sox, how bad they are. And so, yeah, we get a respite this weekend going against the Colorado Rockies. I guarantee them people come in and dominate the White Sox.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, it's a little bit of a respite just from the hell that they have been in. Again, the White Sox haven't won a series since May 14th and May 15th when they won 2 games against the Nationals. Since then, it's been a 3-game sweep at the hands of the New York Yankees. They took 1 of 3 against Toronto. They lost all 4 against Baltimore. Toronto came back to town and they swept their ass. Then they went to Milwaukee. They got swept. Then they went to the North Side. They got swept. Then Boston came for a 4-game series and they played all right. They won 2 of 4. So, hey, way to show up. Then they went to Seattle. Should have lost all 4. Could have won all 4. Instead, they went 1 and 3. Then they went to Arizona, went 1 of 3, won 1 of 3. Played Houston, won 1 of 3. Played Detroit, won 1 of 3. So it's gotten a little bit better. And hey, they've lost 2 of 2 against the Dodgers. And it's likely going to be a 3-game sweep for your Chicago White Sox. And to add on top of this, not only is it the worst record through 81 games, but the biggest thing that I'm watching now with 81 games left, can Pedro Grifol do the unthinkable? Seems like he'll have the runway. Doesn't seem like he'll get fired before the end of the season. In the next 50 games, we will be watching if Pedro will have a better record than 18 and 40. If he goes exactly 18 and 40 in his next 58 games,
okay,
he will be 100 and 200 in his first 300 games. So can he get to 200 losses before he even gets to 100 wins? The Dodgers, through 81 games, are 50-31. They've won 50 games through the first 81 games, right?
White Sox might not win 50 in the season.
It's taken Pedro Grifol, 100. I can't do that math because I'm stupid. What's 82 plus 161? Because I'm dumb. 243.
Okay.
It's taken him 243 games to win 81 or 82 games. What the fuck? Like, it's just so upsettingly and unthinkably bad. I think I remember I brought up during the year that there's been only like 13 of 22,000 seasons or something where like teams have won less than 40 or 50 games in a year. Like, it's a very, very illustriously bad club to join if you are the Chicago White Sox and having this bad of a record. And just keeps getting worse. And you bring up Flexen, and hey, who's going to pitch for the White Sox? Maybe it is Flexen. And I don't know if someone's looking for Flexen to be a fourth or fifth starter for them. Maybe he could be a bullpen beast. Maybe even in September he could start games for some guys. We see Crochet getting a little bit of a tempered workload. Maybe he could just start some games for you and give you, a competitive-ish start. But, like, I don't want Chris Flexen on this team.
No.
Like, I don't want Mike Clevenger on this team.
No.
I'd rather see, Johnny Cannon from Georgia taking a shot, even if he's tipping pitches, or Chad Kuhl. Chad Kuhl's got a story you can root for.
Kai Bush.
Let him eat innings. Yeah, who cares? I don't know.
Jake Eater.
Go sign Zach Greinke and have him get to 3,000 strikeouts. I don't care. There's just nothing really interesting about Flexen. There's nothing really interesting about Clevenger. Obviously, we'll talk about Fetty coming along. But, it's just been a brutal start to the White Sox year so far.
And this is the thing. Like, it wasn't like Pedro was handed a team, not this year. I'm talking about when he started last year. It was the whole thing of, hey, man, different. He understands how to get ready for games. He understands the White Sox and how they look listless when he was on the other side with the Kansas City Royals, and he can get them ready. None of that stuff has came true. Like, all the stuff that he has espoused about being ready to kick your ass at 7-10, about being fast, and that garbage acronym, he's done none of that stuff. And so when I hear Chris Getz, when the presser starts this beginning of this homestand, you're like, or the last homestand, you're like, why aren't you getting ready to fire this man? And it's not his fault necessarily that the White Sox are this bad, but he's part of it, and he hasn't done anything to impress anybody on any level with his managerial skills. So I don't know why you hold on to him. At least give the fans and the team and the organization a pound of flesh, something they can say, okay, there's accountability. There is something to be said that Jerry Reinsdorf and Chris Getz won't just sit back and allow a guy being bad and have the worst record, as you just pointed out, by 6 games clear in White Sox history. And this team doesn't have the worst talent in White Sox history. We've seen worse talent teams than this. And that's why the White Sox are fire selling. There's a lot of people on the White Sox that other teams covet because they're talented. And they're like, hey, let me just get that guy from the White Sox, bring him to my team, and I'll fix him. We were talking about Michael Kopech last night and whether some team would actually go out and get Michael Kopech. I was like, hell yes. He throws 100. He has secondary pitches, which sometimes he get over, sometimes he can't. I guarantee some other team is going to be like, we're going to get him right because the White Sox are messing him up, and he's got a bright future in front of him. Same thing with Luis Roberts. Same thing with Fetty. Same thing with Crochet. Get them on our side, and we'll even improve how they are right now.
But
now, Eloy is a little tough because he's hurt all the time, but I'm guaranteeing once Eloy gets released from the White Sox and they give him his walking papers and his money, some team's going to be like, yeah, here's a tryout, $5 million contract. Enjoy yourself.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that everyone who gets traded off the White Sox is instantly going to get better. I don't think the White Sox is that much of a void of talent. I think that just the entire talent of the team is just clearly below major league, what's acceptable for a major league team. But like, I mean, Fetty's overperforming what anyone thought of he would do. So, I mean, I don't really think that, Fetty's being held back by the Chicago White Sox.
It's not.
I don't think Pham's being held back by the Chicago White Sox. He's 36 years old. I mean, he started off well. We all started about the Tommy Pham effect. I mean, they played a really tough 39 games, and he said there's going to be a really tough 39 games, and it's been a tough 39 games, and he got hurt. Like, I don't think Pham has been brought down by this White Sox team. Like, I think a lot of teams, especially with the parity that's around Major League Baseball, they are looking to get better. And any edge at all, whether you think you can fix Michael Kopech or you're the Chicago Cubs throwing out Drew Smyly in a 9th inning game with the bases loaded, looking for a save. I mean, Kopech's better than Drew Smyly in that situation. I mean, both guys will walk the guy, but one will throw a 103 mile per hour ball and the other one will throw a 69 mile per hour ball. So I think that just a little bit of, improvement, even if it's tiny improvement. Like, this guy can't throw balls, but, his balls are 103 miles per hour, not, 78.
I see you wearing the store shirt today. Kevin's watching too.
Shout out to my guy.
That's right. I can kind of see him. I can see his lights up there.
I don't think he was out there last time I saw him. I gave him a shout out.
He was out there when I went out there, I was out there for like 5 minutes.
Shout out to Shirtless Wonder. All right, let's take a break. We'll talk a little bit more about Garrett Crochet, and Vinnie Duber will be joining us from Guaranteed Rate Field. We want to let you know about our friends over at Mando. I already married my wife, so she's stuck with me, but the more and more I put Mando on, the more and more compliments I get from my wife. So I will give a shout out to Mando for that. Mando Whole Body Deodorant will have you smelling great all summer long. Mando's array of odor controlling solutions ensures you'll be fresh from head to toe. The solid stick and invisible cream tube control odor for 72 hours, but you could start odor control in the shower with the 4-in-1 cleansing bar or acidified body wash. Why not both? They help stop odor before it starts, and the best part is that it fits all in your carry-on. All the liquids in the starter pack are under 3.4 ounces, and with the deodorant wipes, you can freshen up on the go. Again, I love the smells. I was just in Target yesterday, and there's a ton of different scents. I think bourbon leather might be my favorite, and I probably looked a little freaky smelling all the Mando scents in Target. But, hey, just take the one from the back, not the front, because I smelled the ones in the front. But I like the bourbon leather one. Go to the nearest Target near you. Go to Mando, shopmando.com, and check out all the scents that they do have. And also, you can check out the starter pack while you're there. It's perfect for new customers. It comes with the solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant, the 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. They also have a discount code to help you get hooked on our favorite smelling body deodorant on the market. New customers can get $5 off a starter pack with exclusive code CHGO. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code CHGO at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. The link is in the description.
Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater, events that are near you. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I've gone to games at guaranteed rate. I've gone to a game this year at Wrigley, besides the one versus the White Sox that we went to on the takeover. And I use Game Time each time because I know I'm going to get the Game Time guarantee, which means if I buy a ticket on Game Time and I find a price that is lower in the same row and section from another site, I send this information to Game Time and they'll give you 110% of the difference of that price. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you a complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy it so you know exactly what you get when you're going to arrive. And all-in prices, the thing I love, is show you the total up front so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. And they're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals right up to the start of the event and even an hour after that event starts. It's the place to go to find last-minute seats. And with zone deals like I used up there in Milwaukee, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CHGO for your $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account. Redeem the code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Thank you, Herb. And we will be getting into more Garrett Crochet talk. You can read what Vinnie had to write today up at allchgo.com, covering Pedro Grifal's comments about Garrett Crochet and how they will be limiting him. I first want to start with some Chris Getz comments because we were asked a ton yesterday just about like what the White Sox are going to do with Garrett Crochet. To answer Fred's question, though, what's their record against the, as they say, bad AL Central. I can't find it. They haven't played the AL Central a ton. They do have a winning record against Cleveland, believe it or not, 4-3. Detroit, they're 1-5. Minnesota, 0-7. Hello. Yep. And Kansas City 1-6. So bad. Really good against Cleveland. And then and two wins.
Cleveland's running things in the AL Central.
Yeah. So of course, there you go, Sarah. Kind of plays into Sarah's thing. Why they beat the Dodgers tonight. Because, of all teams that they would beat, they'd beat the Dodgers, of course. Or they'll beat Chris Sale on Thursday. Chris Sale is returning.
It's a better story.
It is a better story.
That's a no-hitter on Thursday, Sarah.
So they're 2-18 against Detroit, Kansas City, and Minnesota, and 4-3 against Cleveland. So 6-21. So there you go. They're 6-21 against the AL Central. Is that good?
No.
Okay. All right. Let's get to Chris Getz. Chris Getz is the leader of the CHGO Whites, or not the CHGO White Sox, just the Chicago White Sox. And this is back from last Tuesday when the Astros series started. Chris Getz spoke to the media, and Vinnie transcribed this quote. Getz was asked about trading Dylan Cease and said, being that Dylan was an attractive player to so many different organizations, I do believe it gave us a head start in regards to knowing organizations, whether that applies to Garrett or anyone else. Having such a valuable player like Dylan in my first offseason as general manager has allowed me to build relationships with other general managers and get to know other organizations. So I do feel like we're well positioned when we feel like the time is right. When it comes to Garrett, more than anything, we focus on helping him navigate this season. He's just getting his career started as a starting pitcher and proven to baseball and the world that he's one of the best in the game. I think I can speak to any fan out there when they know he's on the mound, whether it be on our team or any other team, your club has a good chance to win. We're continuing to figuring out what's best for the organization in regards to Garrett, but we're primarily focused on getting his start tomorrow and continuing to map out the rest of the season. We heard more about what the rest of the season will look like from Pedro Grifol today, but with Ken Rosenthal saying the White Sox are sending scouts to the Mariners, the Padres, and Dodgers, does that raise an eyebrow, especially with Chris Getz's past comment?
Yeah, I mean, it does raise an eyebrow that they're just getting their due diligence done. And I know what they're saying, and I know they're asked the questions. And we'll get into Vinny's article and talk to Vinny a little bit later. But what's the benefit of both Chris Getz, the general manager, or Pedro Grifol, the manager, talking about maybe taking down some of his innings or not seeing him as much and having a blueprint and a plan for the future of Garrett Crochet this year? Like, what is the benefit to the White Sox there? I don't see one. So I'm glad that they are having talks, and if they run the blueprint that they ran for Dylan Cease, as Chris Getz wants to do, he won't be trading Garrett Crochet unless he gets exactly what he wants. And what he wanted, the Padres came to play. So I'm glad to hear the Padres in there because they have a lot of good players, a lot of good young players that are available for both separate trades of Luis Robert and or Garrett Crochet. I would not want these trades to happen simultaneously. I don't want those two to be in a trade together because they would mess up the return. Nobody has the necessary players to send back to get those two players. So, yeah, those three teams are good to have. I mean, the Dodgers have an endless amount of young players. I don't know if their prospects are highly rated, but they always come up. Like this Pages guy comes up, and he always performs. I mean, Outman was good last year. I think he might be out this year. I haven't seen him as yet. But if you're dealing with those type of teams, that's a good thing for the White Sox to come back and, talk to those teams about Garrett Crochet and or Luis Robert Jr. because those are good teams that have players and develop those players to be on their major league squad and contribute immediately. Also,
and this is not bashing you. I know someone brought up or threw out the idea of a proposed trade with the Dodgers, including James Outman. But why would I want him? He's older than Luis Robert Jr., and he's being sent down to AAA. He was sent down to AAA in May 17th, and he has not been brought back up. And he's doing well down in Oklahoma City, but the gap between Major League and AAA is crazy. I mean, Luis Robert Jr. is 26 years old. James Outman's 27. I have no interest in that player.
No?
And I've
none?
Zero.
I mean, not for one, but...
No, I know, zero interest. I have zero interest in a 27-year-old. What do we need, Gavin Sheets again?
I mean...
We need Gavin Sheets who can play the outfield? No.
He's better than Gavin Sheets.
No, he's not. Gavin Sheets, I mean, I understand that Gavin Sheets has not been sent down to AAA yet, and likely, the way that he has been playing recently could be, but still, no, absolutely not. I'm not on the James Outman train. He's, again, 27 years old. Are
you on the Andy Pages train?
No. Hit the thumbs up button.
Not on that train either?
I'm more on the Pages train than Robert. I'm with you that trade those two pieces together if you are going to trade them. I think the thing with Crochet that I feel like is becoming clearer and clearer is if there's one that they will trade, Crochet is more likely than Robert. Do you feel like that's a mistake?
No, just because the years attached with Robert and the cost certainty. I know that Crochet is going to be in our 2 and 3, so it doesn't look to be a lot of money, but it's money that you haven't accounted for. You know exactly what Luis Robert's going to be making in the next 3.5 years, and you can get the same type of deal or greater deal next year for Luis Robert, where I don't know if Garrett Crochet, you get the same type of deal, and he's a pitcher too. So the weirdness of pitchers, and they always getting hurt, and Garrett Crochet with a recent injury history of being hurt. I know Luis Robert gets hurt, but his injuries are minor to what a pitcher is. A pitcher can be out for a year with just a single throw. Really, position players, that's very rare that they go out with a single play. But don't, knock on wood, it's the White Sox. So right when I say this, I'm always skeptical of that. But, yeah, I would say you would be more likely to trade Garrett Crochet because I think the White Sox are scared of both the injury and that he won't be this later on. So they're trying to trade high on him. But I hope they trade high on him thinking that, like you think, that he might be Randy Johnson. And you don't trade Randy Johnson in his youth unless you're getting something back that is, at least you could say, hey, we traded Randy Johnson, but we got back Randy Johnson Jr. and another Randy Johnson
Randy
Jr.
Johnson Jr.'s kid is
playing? Oh, no, just like
a Ken Griffey Jr.
We just got like two good players that okay,
well, you can't
I understand why you traded away Randy Johnson Jr.
You can't trade Noah Schultz trade for Noah Schultz because he's already in the organization. He's Randy Johnson Jr. And also, I love that you're bringing up trading Randy Johnson, which I think the Astros, Mariners, and Expos all did. So there you go. You can't trade Randy Johnson unless you can. I think, though, it's becoming clearer that if the Sox were to trade somebody, it would be Crochet over Robert. I think it makes sense. We're hearing that the White Sox want position players back in trades rather than pitching prospects.
Yeah.
And I think that's mainly because, again, we have 8 guys even outside of Crochet that could potentially be slotted into a 2025 rotation. Fred mentions if Robert gets traded, the Sox payroll is going to be less than $40 million. You're getting about 20 or so freed up by buying out Moncada and Aloy. I know that it was supposed to be $16 million that Aloy's supposed to make. There's a $6 million buyout, so it's $10 million freed up there. I think Yoan's around 24, and I'm not even sure if there's a buyout. So at least with center field, you have a for sure superstar in center field with 3 years of control left. Trading Crochet would hopefully get you 2 different position players that would be able to fill out your lineup in 2025. So I think if there is a route that they would go, it seems like they're open to any route, and I don't think that they would be gun-shy to trade Robert or Crochet if their price was asked. But I think it's likelier that Crochet's price gets matched than Robert's price. And I also think that there's more benefit in trading a guy that is a little iffy, is a pitcher, and 2, there's the money aspect, like you brought up. Crochet's making so much less, and next year he's not going to make anything. I know that he's been good. He might even lead the AL in strikeouts, but still,
$5 million.
Not even that. I mean, teams just screw players like this in arbitration. There is no way that Garrett Crochet can build himself an argument. I mean, arbitration is a horrible system for players. They consistently get underserved, and if his want is so much different than the other team, it's just likely that, the team will win. We'll take a break. Vinny's about to join us. We'll ask Vinny about these same questions. We do want to let you know, though, about our great sponsors. First off, I need to go to our messages and see the ad breaks and make sure that Sunnyside is next. Thank you. I'm Sean Anderson, CHGO White Sox, and I'm here to tell you about Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Our friends over at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary have you covered if you are new to the cannabis world. They are here to elevate your summer. They are your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, and they have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. And wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit in Illinois. So stop into the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff or select from quality lines like Cresco or Floracal. And Herb, I got some good news for you.
Yeah.
It's literally the brand Good News. Here for the summer is Good News is Tea Time Disposable Vape, bringing classic lemonade flavor that's perfect for the golf course, because as a certain Northern Irish golfer and a certain golf major showed you on the 17th and 18th hole, that we all need a little relaxation when we're golfing. So it helps you keep a little loose on the course.
That's tough.
I'll head over and pick up my guy Herb over at Sunnyside. It's simply Herb, and you can too by heading to sunnyside.shop and use code HICHGO. That's HICHGO at checkout for 35% off brands like Cresco, Good News, and more to elevate your first purchase. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day. Only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class products rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them a perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. We've been with them for 2 years at this point, and the glasses that they gave me 2 years ago are still perfectly fine, crystal clear. They have not broken. They are easily the best sunglasses that I have ever owned, and making them a perfect choice for outdoor adventures. And they also have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself these shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Let's head out to Guaranteed Rate Field and chat with Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. Again, you can go read his work at allchgo.com. His latest piece was chatting with Pedro Grifol about Garrett Crochet's timeline and his work management load. And just to read the quote out of the way, just to get it out there so Vinny doesn't have to, belabor it. Oh, you're wearing glasses? No. Oh, looks like you're wearing glasses. I don't know. All right. Am I off on that, or do I need glasses?
Yeah, you probably need glasses. Yeah.
All right. That looks better. All right. Pedro said, we're going to start dwindling Crochet's work load down a little bit, and we'll manage that correctly. It's not something we're going to put out and say, here's what we're doing, because nothing in this game is black and white. He might have 5 innings where he goes 12 pitches or less, and we might let him go 6 or 7 innings. Even when we're trying to minimize his workload, it depends on what he does, but we have a plan in place. We have a blueprint in place. So, Vinny, we didn't get to chat yesterday after Garrett Crochet's start. He went 5 2/3 innings pitched, give up 5 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 6 Ks. And his stuff plus was up last night as well. His four-seam fastball up to 109 plus, and it's been sitting around 105 in his past couple starts. So it seems like he's bouncing back to even better stuff than he was before. And his cutter was sitting at a 105 plus. I think we were all kind of shocked sitting in section 147 when he was pulled with 91 pitches and really 1 out away from completing 6 innings. So how did last night's game lead into today's comments, if that makes sense?
Sure. Well, I mean, listen, I think Garrett Crochet, really any day, given the state of the White Sox, is going to be a talking point. And certainly there's been a lot of curiosity over how the team is going to manage his workload dating all the way back to spring training, right? I mean, I think I wrote in my story today that, hey, here's workload management just in time for the trade deadline. But kind of at the same time, we've been talking about this for a few months now. But that being said, we got some clarity from Pedro today after he took him out after 5 2/3 innings last night. And listen, he had a scoreless game going against, one of the best lineups in baseball. He was doing a phenomenal job. There was no strategic reason, as Pedro said after the game, to take him out. But this is going to be the reality for Garrett Crochet and the White Sox the rest of the season. And that's trying to do what they've been saying all along, which is avoid that shutdown by buying him pitches, buying him innings, buying him starts, buying him days of rest. And so you saw it last night. I don't think Pedro wanted to go out there and take him out, but he told Garrett after the fifth inning that, hey, you've only got a few pitches left in you before I've got to pull the plug on your outing because of, what we're trying to do for you this year. And that's what ended up happening. I think the outing before that he pitched, he only threw 85 pitches, but he made it 6 innings because he was a little bit more efficient. So you've seen it twice in a row now, in which they're not really just letting him go. They've got a number in mind, and they want to make sure that he doesn't exceed it by too much. But I think the comments today, Pedro really wanted to hammer home that while they do have this plan, while they do have a goal to, like he said, dwindle the workload down a little bit, it's a kind of a flexible thing, at least from game to game, in that, he can be very efficient. It doesn't mean that he's going to come out after 5 innings, hard and fast. If he's been efficient and has not, had to labor too much with a lot of pitches, then they might let him go a little bit. And vice versa can be true also. They might expect him to go 6 innings with the pitch count that they have in mind, and maybe it'll be a shorter day because he, has some big numbers and some early innings. But I think the reason they don't want to come out and say, hey, this is the number, this is what we're planning on doing, is because they want to stay as flexible as possible and make sure that they're reacting to how Garrett feels, which to this point has been pretty much terrific, right? I mean, we haven't really seen any signs at all or heard anything at all about negative physical effects from this huge jump in innings for him and a huge jump in workload. And I think that from that standpoint, it's probably going as good as anybody could have wanted it to go here, whether you're the White Sox, whether you're Garrett or anything like that, even though the lefty said last night he wants to throw 130 pitches every time he goes out, kind of joking a bit there. But, well, maybe not considering what we know about him. But at the same time, I do think that they want to be able to stay flexible, and they want to do what's best for him if he happens to be a guy that they're going into 2025 with.
The reasons be twofold, both saving Garrett Crochet from himself and, not wanting to have a shutdown for him. And also, he's in trade conversations, having this, metric saying, hey, he threw 91 pitches, his velocity stayed the same throughout, and then his next start, they could show the team that is acquiring or thinking about acquiring him and saying, hey, man, this isn't anything that he is tired, his velocity is this, that, and the other, and the White Sox are kind of saving themselves from wearing Garrett Crochet out, so the next team that they might be trading him to isn't getting a worn-out product.
I think that's a natural thing to think, but I think it is a little conspiracy theory, in terms of as far as baseball goes, right? I think that they are 100% dedicated to doing what's best for him and his future and a future that might be with them, right? I mean, I think that people need to understand the difference between not being untouchable and being available for a trade versus Chris Getz is going door to door. He's the door to door Garrett Crochet salesman, right? I don't think that is a thing that's happening. I think that, when I joined, I heard Sean say it, and I think he's absolutely correct. The likelihood of a deal involving Garrett Crochet, and by extension Luis Robert Jr. as well, is going to hinge mostly, if not almost entirely, on does a team want to call and meet the price that Chris Getz has in mind. And I don't think it is, hey, we, the White Sox, need to get rid of this guy now. It's, hey, he's here. If you want him, come get him, but you gotta pay up, kind of thing. And so I think that there's a difference between being able to or being available to be traded and being shopped. And I think sometimes those things can get conflated in the minds of fans and even, other folks like myself sometimes. But I think it is important to kind of think of those things as two different things.
So with this workload comment, the first reaction was less like Pedro saying this and less like inside baseball. Like, why would you say you're limiting his workload? Because I think it's very obvious to anyone in baseball that you would limit his workload. I don't think that he should be keeping silent on that, being because it gives them a lean either way that they think he's going to be hurt or anyway. But I don't understand the thought process of another GM, one of these other 29 GMs, or if you want to dwindle it down to 20 of actual playoff competitors, why they would go out and acquire a guy with Crochet who does have such so many question marks around him. And what we've came to, or at least trying to figure out, especially after reading your likely to be dealt list, you had Crochet more likely to be dealt than Robert. So do you feel that Crochet, especially with the question marks and how well he's performing, that it might be smart for the White Sox just to cash in on Crochet, because it seems likely that the White Sox won't be competing in 2025. So how realistically will Garrett Crochet be a part of a competitive window for the White Sox?
Yeah, I think that's what they have to think about, right? And so, Garrett Crochet is under control for 2 years past this year. He's pitching like one of the best pitchers in baseball right now. You would think that would be extraordinarily valuable to a rebuilding team, but the Gets just might have so much work to do that those 2 years coming up are not going to be enough to outweigh what might be the benefit of cashing in on one of the best pitchers in baseball and trying to infuse as much talent really long term into your team as possible. So I do think that it's more likely Crochet would go than Robert, just because the White Sox, or not even the White Sox, anybody can point to Crochet's performance this year and say, oh boy, wouldn't you like to have that guy on the heater that he's on part of your playoff team. And then also, too, it's probably just not as high a price, right? I mean, Luis Robert Jr. has a track record after last season of being one of the most impactful players in baseball, and would probably command a return package, that you would consider one of the highest in baseball, because you combine the talent with the control that a team would be getting for Luis Robert Jr. So I think it will be very difficult for a team to meet that price. Plus, on top of it, he has very little to go on for this year, right? He's barely played. His numbers are not great. He was hurt earlier this year. I mean, like, you can point to, a player who's not really producing the way you would expect him to do, and on top of it, missed almost 2 months with an injury. Maybe that's not something that is having GMs running to the phone at the moment like they would be for the performance you can see from Garrett Crochet. Now, I would imagine that the White Sox would be asking a very high price for Crochet too, though, right? So I think if you want to compare those two, I think Crochet might be more likely to get moved. But at the same time, when you compare him to some of his teammates, I think it's nowhere near as close, right? I mean, like Tommy Pham and Paul DeJong and some of the guys in the bullpen, even Eric Fetty, would seem like more likely to go, because is another team going to meet the same price that the White Sox would think or have in mind for Garrett Crochet? I mean, look how long it took for a team to meet Chris Getz's price on Dylan Cease, right? And if that's the way it's going to play out, if there are those questions around baseball of, can Garrett Crochet last me through the World Series, right? Or, is he going to be something that I need to implement a new plan also once we get him? Is that going to be worth it for the price that the White Sox are asking? So I think the price will probably be steep, because this guy might start the All-Star game. He's been that good. It's just a matter of, would a team meet it? And I'm not sure how likely it would be that a team would meet it unless some desperation kicks in as we get closer to that deadline.
With the 5 starts he's had in the month of June, I think a 4.5 ERA, is Chris Flexen working his way onto another team? Because his performance today, while giving up 4 earned runs, and I know he's probably mad about giving up a home run to 2 of the best lefties in the game, is he working his way off the White Sox and maybe for a nice, decent return?
I don't know about a nice, decent return. I would think that he would be someone that would certainly be traded if someone called and asked for him, you know what I mean? But I'm not quite sure if he is to the level of certainly Crochet or Robert, which you wouldn't be asking about, but even someone like Fetty, right? Or even someone who's performing not bad, like John Brabia, maybe, I think maybe could be a pretty logical trade candidate for these White Sox. But Chris Flexen could go, everybody always needs pitching at the trade deadline, and acquiring depth is never a bad thing if you're a contender and you want to continue to last the length of this marathon that we have every season. But I'm not sure how impressive other teams might find what he's been able to do. I think he's been fine, but I don't know if other teams are looking for fine. But again, pitching is always a hot commodity at this time of year, so we'll see if that's something that Chris Getz can turn into a prospect or something like that can help them for the future.
And I want to get into more trade talks in a second. One guy that was included on your trade likely to be dealt article from Monday. 8th was Eloy Jimenez. You said very unlikely that he gets traded. But I think mostly what was surprising is after the game on Sunday, when, in the 5th inning, he hit a single and then advanced from first to third. It seemed like he was dealing with some sort of leg injury, but I guess on the positive side, he's played in back-to-back games and really doesn't seem bothered by any of his leg injuries. So first off, I'm just happy for the person, Eloy Jimenez, that we don't have to do another Eloy Jimenez hits the IL, knock on wood segment again. Is it just something that the White Sox are, I know that we've heard this before, and maybe you have to go back to even 2022 to find the answer of this, but like with smaller soft tissue issues, do you feel like the White Sox are going to be a little bit more lenient to push guys to play through this stuff, just because, especially with the kind of consistency and the amount of soft tissue injuries we've seen with the White Sox hitters?
I mean, I don't know if that's a hard and fast policy. I understand that we have experienced a trend of those kinds of injuries over the years, but I think that the team would most likely explain that as luck-based, right? The idea that so many of them would pile up in the way that they have. I think you got to approach it all on an individual by individual basis. Eloy Jimenez has certainly been somebody who has experienced numerous of these, but in this very specific case of what he's dealing with right now, I think any sort of play through it would be coming from his own side in this right now, right? I mean, I think that certainly the White Sox are not going to activate somebody if they don't think they're ready for game action, and I asked Pedro even yesterday, like, was he 100% when you brought him back? And the explanation was that when you have a significant injury, you're not really going to be 100% until you have a full, off season maybe to recover from it, just because of some of the mental that you're dealing with, as well as the idea that now you got to go out there and play every day, right? So I think that 100% number, even for guys who aren't experiencing something that sends them to the injured list for a very long time, is probably something that is very rare during a baseball season for anybody to reach. But in the case of Eloy, I think he's probably playing through, something. I don't want to call it anything because I'm not, diagnosing him with an injury or anything like that. But I think that everything that he's gone through to this point just in this season has probably had an effect where his leg is not 100%, right? And so he's going to have to play through that to whatever degree you want to describe it. But let's put it this way. I think on Sunday we saw something that was very obvious, right? A guy kind of limping around the bases. That's a very obvious thing. Tonight, maybe, or yesterday, you don't see that, and that's good for Eloy, but I'm not sure that he's ever going to be, busting it down the line as much as anybody's expecting him to, just because he's got some sore legs probably. So I don't, we're obviously going to keep talking about this until he's off the team, I would imagine, but he's a guy who right now is dealing with coming back from a very significant injury that knocked him out for a month, and he's probably going to keep dealing with it for a while.
Just for my edification, just a day off for Andrew Vaughn today after a couple offers the last couple games?
Would seem that way to me.
Okay. It was nothing specific. I was making sure he's not still dealing with the hand problem.
Nothing that we heard.
You can confirm that he's in the clubhouse and wasn't traded. This was a joke.
Yes.
Okay, very cool. I think the other thing that I found surprising, too, in your most likely to be dealt article was the second person. I don't know if this was just because you didn't want to repeat yourself, but Tommy Pham, and I don't want to spoil it so people can still read the actual write-up. There's not just, Tommy Pham extremely likely. Vinny does a whole write-up. But Tommy Pham extremely likely to be traded, and then Eric Fedde very likely to be traded. Why the difference in extremely and likely, or very likely? What's the difference there? And, I mean, is there a world that they don't trade Fedde?
I mean, I guess there is a world. I think I said very likely, right? I think the extremely likely comes from the fact that this is your, you could look up trade deadline trade candidate in the dictionary, and I think 2024 Tommy Pham picture would be there, right? I mean, we basically assumed when they signed him to trade him. They signed him with the idea of turning him into something at the trade deadline. And he has, not exactly set the world on fire here, but he has performed well enough that he's going to be traded. And so that's why I say extremely likely. Eric Fetty is probably going to go as well, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he is the dictionary definition of a trade candidate like Pham might be.
In this dictionary picture, is Tommy Pham smiling, and have you ever seen him smile?
No and no.
Okay. Hey, maybe he'll be happy to get out of this 39-game stretch that the White Sox are in. Only 2 more games left. I guess the important thing out of that is that Chris Sale will be starting on the final game, and not for the White Sox, unfortunately, but he'll be around. So maybe he'll bring back some nostalgia for some folks. I guess the only other thing I wanted to bring up that I haven't brought up yet is just the Crochet thing, and this is, I don't know, just the thought, really. No one needs to respond, but in our Discord, and this was thrown out all throughout Twitter, I'll bust toss Alex Rude because he deserves it. But he said, because a smart organization would know how to maximize Crochet's usage so they can have him available in the playoffs. I mean, aren't we seeing right now Garrett Cole be rushed back when he's not healthy, throwing 92 miles per hour? Kyle Bradish, who no-hit the White Sox and they showed up flat against 4. He had a UCL issue that has turned into a bigger UCL issue. I know Crochet hasn't been diagnosed with an actual issue, but pitching throughout all of Major League Baseball has been a very difficult and fickle thing to deal with. And I don't think there is a true usage plan for a guy that has never thrown over 60 innings in a season before, college or professional, and then just figuring it out on the fly. Like, we've seen that Crochet talked about overhauling his mechanics in the offseason. He said that he's not really forcing velocity as much, and that seems to be true from all the StatCast data that we have. I don't know if it necessarily means less innings equals less chance to get injured. It might even mean throwing him off a routine might lead to more injury. I guess that's the whole thing with this Crochet talk is if they do get the right offer from a team, I 100% think Chris Getz is trading him. You wrote somewhat likely, but the more and more we hear about it, and then also with this idea that they have to limit him, I mean, are you even going to, I mean, you have 2.5 years of control of Garrett Crochet. Half that year is the rest of 2024, which is a dead year for the White Sox. It's not like you can actually use Crochet's pitching towards something. And there's no guarantee with any pitcher, let alone Crochet and his pass, that he'll be healthy in 2025. So I think it's really played out to, at this point, if the offer is made where, Getz feels as comfortable as he did with the Cease package, I think a deal will be made for Crochet. It might end up being later to July. I think if a package for Tommy Pham gets delivered, I think that they'll probably jump on it right away, not deal with it. Hey, it will free up time for Dominic Fletcher, Colas, whoever, to play in right field. But with Crochet, they have to maximize that is the biggest piece that they'll be trading. They have to maximize that trade possibility. And I mean, you don't know what what 2025 is going to look like. So I mean, the more and more we see it, if a team's going to be willing to take on Garrett Crochet, I think if the price is right, you got to pull that trigger.
I know you said earlier that he's not necessarily going door to door as a door to door salesman for Garrett Crochet, but wouldn't you think that would kind of be smarter if you know the price already that you're setting? Tell the teams, like, hey, before you even call me, Dodgers, this is what I want. You don't meet that number? Cool. We just don't have to do business at all. You don't have to waste my time. I got other trades to make. That type of thing. Like, hey, we got Garrett Crochet. You want him. This is the deal. If you don't come to what we want by a certain point, we'll move on. And I agree with Sean. Like, they seem like, in the recent comments, seem like they're more in that, like, hey, this guy has to go if we get our deal. Where I would be like, this would have to be blow my socks off to get Garrett Crochet on another team type of thing. Not just get to my deal. It has to be 100% without fail at the time of the trade that I won the trade because I'm giving up a 24-year-old lefty starter.
I disagree with that because even if it's like 95%, I feel like you got to pull the trigger because, I mean, Getz brought up that they're not really, or they haven't talked about extension with Crochet. So it's not like, I don't think there's a commitment to the player. So if you're getting close to the package and if it's, pretty much there, I think they pull the trigger. I don't know.
When it does happen, I will call it that day. Either way, I'm like, I don't like this trade, or it's a great trade.
Wait and see. There's only a couple more days left. We got pretty much a month left until this all decided. Eric Fetty might possibly go out tomorrow and pitch for his next team.
Hug watch.
So we'll see. Eric Fetty on the bump versus Gavin Stone. That game's at 7:10. We'll have a post game for you then. We'll also have a post game for you on Thursday as Chris Sale will face his old team. Drew Thorpe will take the bump for the White Sox on Thursday at 3:10. Vinny, anything else from the park? Or anything we missed from Monday, too?
Not that's immediately coming to my mind right now. Oh, Mike Clevenger, we don't know when he's coming back. We have yet to hear whether his next start will be another rehab start or a start with the big league team. And I know everyone's very interested about how the rotation would shake out in that event, but we'll see what happens because he hasn't necessarily been looking very effective, at least from the box scores that we've seen in his 2 rehab starts down at Charlotte.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like there's an immediate need to at least give anyone a break. They'll have an off day on Monday the 1st, so maybe that's when they start working him in, possibly. We'll have to wait and see.
You know what, tomorrow, I know you won today on Click to Pick, but I would go with Gavin Sheets.
You're going to pick him right now?
I would go with, because...
Or do I have first
You have
choice.
first, yeah.
All right, I'm going with Gavin Sheets.
I mean, because paper beats rock. Sheets versus Stone.
Oh, look at you. Look at you. All right.
Need a Gavin Shears out there.
One more thing. Tomorrow's game is sold out.
Yes, no, that's a good point too. Because of the giveaway that's going to be there, it's going to be Mexican Heritage Night for the White Sox. I mean, I found this interesting too. Like people were talking about Ohtani being in town being the reason. I mean, you had Crochet versus Ohtani on Monday.
I mean, it could be both. It was what 25,000 plus yesterday and 23,000 plus tonight. So those are some big numbers for a Monday and Tuesday. So I'm guessing that the Wednesday number was going to be bigger than you might expect anyway. And then you throw in this new promotion. It's the first time they've done this Mexican Heritage Night at the ballpark, and it sounds like it is a big hit already, even though it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, Laura N. Rodriguez Presa of the Chicago Tribune, a bilingual journalist over there, said the White Sox are having their first Mexican Heritage Night tomorrow. Chicago is set up to have their first Grito Fest down for Mexican Independence Day in September, and the USC plans to release a study about Mexicans in the city soon. The presence of Mexicans in Chicago is significant. So you are seeing the representation of that culture and that group coming alive in Chicago, and they should represent very loudly at Guaranteed Rate Field.
First sellout of the year, right, Vinny?
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, because the Detroit game was not sold out
opening
on opening day.
No one knew that they'd be seeing Randy.
And they haven't played the Cubs yet.
Cubs haven't been here yet, yeah.
No.
All right, well, should be fun. All right, that's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. We will be with you tomorrow for the CHGO White Sox postgame show and the wrap-up of this 3-game series. That's Vinnie Duber. You can check out his 2 latest articles up at allchgo.com. He also has a piece for your diehards that came out on Monday for the White Sox weekly newsletter, so go check that out at allchgo.com. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at EctorWall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader, and I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.